What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well, and I think it's about time we do yet another mock draft 5.0 for me. Obviously, the college football season is long over. We still haven't gotten to the combine, so the final pieces of information that we need to formulate our big boards is not quite here yet, but I think we can do fairly well with the information that we have. So let's go ahead and hit it. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got, take a look at our picks, and try to come up with a new path, something a little different than what we've come up with in the past. Now, I'm not going to deviate too much because I have my beliefs about what this team needs and what this team doesn't need right now, and that's not going to change. Maybe at some point I start dabbling in the more wilder mock drafts, but let's see what we can do with how I see this team situated right now. So, mock draft 5.0. First thing I'm going to do is trade down, and I put trade down with Dallas, but it could be any team down there in the mid 20s, maybe even late 20s. I don't really care. It could be Houston, could be maybe a team like the Browns, could be a team like could be all the way down to a team like the Ravens or the Lions. Whoever is willing to trade up to about 16, I think that's the move 100%. And I'm trying to get back a late second rounder, which, based on the video I made about a week ago, is completely realistic and should be expected if you're going to move down that much in the first round. So I'm trading down. I just put Dallas, but it could be any team in that range. So I'm acquiring the extra second round pick, and I'm still picking in the late first. And with that late first round pick, I'm taking Jackson Powers Johnson, center from Oregon. He is really starting to gain traction as a 5-star, purely perfect, no doubt about it, center prospect on the level of Tyler Linderbaum a couple years ago. And at this point, I think he does go in the first. I'm not convinced he's going to go much higher than this. He is a center at the end of the day, and centers don't get drafted this high very much. I don't know if he can get into the top 20, but I think he can go around here pretty easily. And I think that Jackson Powers Johnson, he immediately becomes our starting center. He also could slide to left guard and do it competently, I think, in theory, which I'm not super excited about. But at the same time, I do acknowledge the distinct possibility that Oluwatimi becomes a good center, and then we just have this gaping hole at left guard, and JPJ can fill that competently for a little while at least. So, in one way or the other, he'd find a way on the field to help this team. So, JPJ of Oregon is my top pick, and I mean, he's about as good as it gets as far as these center guys go. He's really got it all. Okay. Then, with my second round pick that I got in the trade, I'm getting Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker from Texas A&M. By the way, I used the NFL mock draft database to get the relative values of these players via their aggregate big board. I understand that there's a good chance things shift before the draft, but they could shift one way or the other. So I'm just going with the information we have right now. Edgerrin Cooper, he snuck up on me. I didn't know about him when the college football season started, but Hawks Nest turned him on to me, and I love it. There's a lot to like with Edgerrin Cooper. He brings it all. He can cover, he can play the run, he's rushing the passer. He did it all for that Texas A&M defense. And immediately I'm feeling much better about the linebacker spot. You can bring back Wagner, or you can give Brooks a multi-year deal, one way or the other. You can address your linebacker needs with Edgerrin Cooper being one of the two guys that you need in this 3-4 defense. And you're feeling much better about things going forward into 2024 and beyond. I think that Edgerrin Cooper has tremendous upside to be an elite linebacker down the road. In a linebacker crop that initially looked better than it ended up being, Edgerrin Cooper was one of the guys that really just came out of nowhere and crushed it for me. He became one of my top guys very quickly. And at this point, if you can get him in the late second round, I'm ecstatic about that. And that is about where the aggregate has him right now. So, second round pick, Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker. I really like that one. And then we're getting down to the third round here, and I'm taking his former teammate, McKinley Jackson, nose tackle from Texas A&M. He played mostly nose tackle last year for the Aggies. And that's where we have a need right now, because when you take a look at our defensive line, we have Leonard Williams probably coming back. I imagine that he will come back on some kind of an extension. You've got a guy like Mike Morris, who should be coming back and making an impact in 2024, coming back from that injury. You've got Draymond Jones still there, can't really move off of him right now, can't trade him, so he's going to be there for at least one more year. So the defensive end position looks good. It's the nose tackle position I'm concerned about because Jaron Reed's getting old and he's undersized anyway, and we don't really have too much else. Brian Monet is probably going to get cut. Austin Foley already signed with the XFL, so I don't know what we got there. We need a nose tackle. We can't get Tavondre Sweat down here in the third round anymore, I don't think. The elite nose tackles are not going to be there, but McKinley Jackson is a guy. There's a lot of positive traction around this guy as we head towards the draft. And if you could get him, I think that he's a guy who could be immediately rotational for you along with Cam Young. And with that three-headed monster at the nose tackle position of Cameron Young, Jaron Reed, and McKinley Jackson, I think you'd have something. I don't want to go into the season with just Reed and Young. I know that. It's just not going to be enough. All right. We have another third-round pick. I'm going to spend it on Christian Haynes, a right guard prospect from UConn. Really good, clean, solid prospect. This is the part of the draft where I would start considering investing in a right guard. I know we have Bradford, and I'm not against Bradford being the right guard, but we don't have anybody else. So worst case scenario, you bring in Haynes, and he's competition for Bradford, and you just kind of let the best man win at the right guard spot. And whoever doesn't win is just your backup, and you're feeling decent about your backup because he's young, has talent, has upside. Bradford was, I think, a fourth-round pick, and Haynes is now a third-round pick. There's some real talent there. And you've taken care of your right guard spot for at least the next few years because they're both on rookie deals. And again, I understand that there would be some consternation about spending a third-round pick on a guy who you wouldn't expect to start year one, maybe ever if Bradford pans out, but this is still preferable to me to spending on a free agent who probably has no upside whatsoever. So even if Christian Haynes never becomes the starter in Seattle, you got to build depth on that offensive line. And Haynes, I think him or Zinter would probably be your best options in this area of the draft. Now, you may have noticed that I've spent picks on a center and a right guard, so we've got an issue at left guard as of right now with this draft. That might be the position we have to spend big at in free agency, but there was always probably going to be one position on the offensive line you needed to spend on in free agency if you really wanted to make it better. Next, we have fourth-round pick James Williams, safety from Miami, the Hurricanes. This guy's really interesting. He's big. He's almost linebacker size. In fact, in the modern NFL, he might be linebacker size. And he played all over the place for the Hurricanes. He played box safety. He played deep safety, free safety. He played slot a little bit. He played all different roles, kind of like a bigger Julian Love. And in a defense like this that is going to require your safeties to be ubiquitous, I like the idea of having a guy who can play multiple roles, be your slot corner, be a strong safety, be a free safety. And he has the size to handle that without wearing down the way we've seen some safeties do when you ask him to play in the box too much. So James Williams, if you're going to wait this long to get a safety, I think he's about the best you can do. Very unique talent here in the Hurricane, and I think he played well last year. I don't think it's just a matter of talent. I think he actually was a good player for the Hurricanes along with Kinchins. I'm not too high on Kinchins at this point, to be perfectly honest. I'm not saying I like Williams more, but for the value you get, I might like Williams a little bit more. So, yeah, that's my fourth-round pick. Feeling solid about that one. Feeling like maybe he could even be a year one starter at some point. And in this case, he might kind of have to be. All right, fifth-round pick, I'm going Roger Rosengarten, a guy who played really well at the Senior Bowl, a guy who played really well for UW in general over the course of the season. He did not have a very good national title game, but Rosengarten is making a name for himself. With the Senior Bowl he had, if he has a good combine, he may bump up to like the fourth round, but for now, it's totally feasible. You could get him in the fifth. We need a good insurance policy behind Abe Lucas, and Rosengarten would be viable. I think more viable than a guy like Curhan, more viable than a guy like, bringing back Jason Peters, of course. There's definite upside there. He could become a starter at some point, and I don't think it would be too shocking. So Roger Rosengarten would take care of the problem we have at the right tackle spot behind Lucas. And if he has to play at some point because Lucas goes down, I don't dread that. I think that he might be able to handle it even at the NFL level. 6th-round pick, I didn't forget about him. My guy, my favorite. He had a terrible Senior Bowl. Joe Milton, quarterback at Tennessee. It only makes the value go down. Please keep telling me how bad this guy is. It only makes me want him more. It's like the old drill tweet. It only makes my opinions worse. But Joe Milton, I mean, there's so much talent in this guy that there's no way you're going to regret spending that 6th-round pick on him. There's just no way. Even if there's like a 5% chance you can bring it out, it's so good. The arm strength, the mobility, the agility, it's all there. It just isn't coming together yet, but the right coach can bring it out. And while Joe Milton could be a Jamarcus Russell, I don't mind getting Jamarcus Russell in the 6th round. You're not really going to you're not expecting much in the 6th round at that point. Why not at least take a big swing? So if I can get Joe Milton in the 6th round, I'm feeling really, really good about things. And finally, we're taking another Husky in the 7th round. This is a guy who probably won't get drafted, but I did take him in the 7th because I want to make sure I get him. Because if he becomes a UDFA, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to get him. If he has a good combine, by the way, he might get drafted in the 7th round, but phenomenal hands. Just a guy who goes out there and does his job week after week after week, day after day after day. And he could provide value in the same way that Jacob Hollister provided value. He's not talented. He's not big enough to play an every down role, but he can go out there for a handful of snaps a game, catch the occasional pass, and do his job. And there's a market for guys like that. So I would love to cap off the draft with somebody like Westover. Hopefully you get him as a UDFA, but this just kind of guarantees that you get first crack at him that you wouldn't have if you hoped for UDFA. So let me know what you guys think about this mock draft. That's it. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. More videos coming later today.